Hello world, Dano here, stacking paper as always. Back like we never left. I say like we never left, but man, it's been a while. Um, Long story short, I moved to the big city, and that really stunted my reading for the most part. But we are back now. I finally finished this book, A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick, and I really didn't write notes for this one because I had watched the film before reading this book, and I will say the film actually is very faithful adaptation. I again rewatched it after I finished the book just to kind of bookend it, pun intended. Um, but man, this book is truly incredible while also being kind of boring. Like, not a lot actually happens plot wise, but this is the closest book to like a true autobiography for PKD, and I would say the more you know about the man himself and about like his life, the more heavy this book will hit because he's really just describing himself here. So I guess I'll rewind a bit. So for those who don't know, who haven't watched the film, this book is about an undercover cop who is trying to infiltrate the inner workings of not so much like a gang. It's more like he's trying to find the source of substance D, which is this drug that's just running rampant across the nation, or maybe just California. It takes place in California, but I'm assuming it's a national problem. And he's an undercover cop, and he's trying to, work his way up the ranks, so to speak, to try to get to, the supplier of this thing. And he leads this double life where, on one hand, he's an undercover cop, and then on the other hand, he's living in this house with these three other, you could call them junkies because they're all, dropping substance D all the time. But, and him included. And like that's like a part of the job is that like, yeah, you do have to do drugs, and the other cops know this. But yeah, I'll get there. The other thing is these undercover cops, they wear these things called scramble suits, which just it's like you're basically a walking electronic billboard, and it's constantly changing, different face shapes and like body types. So it's like you can't get a lock on who the person is. And yeah, this book is like it's weird because it's not trippy like something like Ubik, which you'd think it would be because the character's on drugs all the time. But and you do get it. It is an unreliable narrator situation, but it seems all very normal for him. It seems like he's kind of doing his job. Like, basically, the book is kind of split between him kind of living this junkie life, doing drugs, and just having kind of like stupid conversations. As a weed smoker, we've all been there where you're in a sesh circle, and people just start talking about philosophy, and you think it's all very profound, but like someone sober from the outside will look at you and be like, wow, those guys are idiots. That's kind of like a lot of the situations there. But what gives us the extra layer is at some point in the book, they install scanners, like video recordings and audio recordings. And he will go back to, the cop shop and watch videos of himself and the other junkies and just kind of try to like get information. But there starts to be this separation between Bob Arctor, who is his junkie persona, and Fred, who is that's his cop name. It's not his real name, so we don't even know what his real name is. It's not Bob Arctor, and it's not Fred. It's something else. But as he continues to do more and more substance D, he gets taken aside by some of the like psychologists in the police station, and they're just running tests because they know that once you do a certain amount of substance D, what happens is your left and right hemispheres start, they call it cross chatter. They start interfering with one another, and it's not like they explain how basically in cases where someone's entire like left side of your brain shuts down, let's say, the right side will move in to compensate. But what's happening with Bob is that both sides are still active, but they're interfering with one another. So he's not able to keep track of like anything in his life really, even though from his perspective and from the reader's perspective, everything seems pretty normal until he starts having these conversations, and they essentially tell him at one point like, hey man, you have like 2 working brain cells left. Like you are fried and you need to stop doing this basically. And it's a very sad story because this guy is just doing what he thinks is right, but in the process of getting caught up in doing these drugs 24/7, he slowly loses, you know, his soul, I guess you could say. His mind, body, and soul, I guess. And he doesn't even know why. He doesn't know what he's even sacrificed himself for. And I guess at this point now I'll go like full spoilers because where the book wraps up. So there's this rehabilitation clinic that is like it's like a chain of clinics all across the country called New Path. And their goal is to get people off of substance D and get people like clean. It has very like, you know, it's wholesome and like egalitarian, and you're like, wow, this is good. But essentially what happens is they tell him, hey man, you need to get clean, so we're taking you off this assignment. And they take him to New Path, and Donna Hawthorne, who has been his girlfriend this whole time, who is also, you know, a drug dealer, sells him hash and substance D and all that stuff. Turns out she's actually undercover, but not for the cops, for this other organization who their theory is that New Path is the one that is making substance D. And the problem is the only way that they can get in there is they have to have someone on the inside who's a junkie. But how can you have someone on the inside who's a junkie and still, you know, be cognizant enough to know what they're doing? So they get Fred/Bob in there, and their goal is to just like figure out what's going on. And that's a big it's a big mindfuck near the end of the book, because you see essentially there's a guy who's working at New Path his name's Mike, and he helps Bob out and like kind of talks him through stuff. There's also some weird like culty shit going on at New Path where they kind of like shame people. It's really fucked up actually. But then there's a scene where you see Mike meet up with Donna, and that's where they kind of reveal, you know, the other shoe drop, so to speak. And it's like, oh, they're trying to figure out, you know, what New Path is doing and where they're growing this stuff. But the thing is, New Path, the people who grow stuff on the farms are all completely burned out husks of human beings, right? They take people who have completely blasted themselves on substance D, that they don't know anything, so they can't rat them out, right? But their hope is that Bob still has just that little bit of flicker left in his brain to recognize it when he sees it. And yeah, the book actually ends with this author's note that I think really just completely wraps it up. And it's essentially Philip K. Dick saying like, this book is for all like close friends and colleagues of mine who are all either like completely brain damaged or dead because of drug use. But the way he explains it is that they were just trying to have a good time. They didn't, you know, even realize the consequences because there was so little knowledge about what this stuff was doing to them. And it's kind of just like, you know, pour one out for the homies, so to speak. And what makes it even sadder is Philip K. Dick didn't live that much longer. Scanner Darkly is one of his later books, I think 73, and he died in the early 80s because he died before Blade Runner came out. Yeah, PKD is one of those guys that he became so much more famous after his death. He didn't get the shine he deserved while he still lived. But that's why we still read his stuff now, because it's seminal. I think I'm going to give this book a 9 because it is an incredible work. I'm just like, I do kind of like a little more of the trippier stuff that he does. Like I think I like Ubik a little bit better, but Scanner Darkly is definitely a more well written book, and it's a much more emotional book. Like especially it's really that author's note epilogue that really hits so hard that just throws the whole thing into perspective. I would say before reading Philip K. Dick stuff in general, Media Death Cult, aka Moid, it's a YouTube channel. He has a really, really good video on Philip K. Dick and his life and how, you know, his real life bleeds into all of his books. I'm gonna put a link to it in the description. You know, if even one person watches it, I think that would be a good thing because Moid is kind of the GOAT. But yeah, this book is just and you know what? Surprisingly, it's really funny too. Like, I'll say one thing that I think the book has over the movie. The movie is a really good adaptation, but a lot of the characters speak really fast, and a lot of the dialogue will just kind of go past people. Especially Robert Downey Jr. You know, with that super fast talking he always does when he trips out. Yeah, you know. But in the book, it's much more streamlined, and you do get a better sense of the two hemispheres of his brain kind of fighting each other because you'll be reading and he'll be speaking, and then all of a sudden you'll get like a paragraph that's just like all in German for no reason, and then it'll go back to his thoughts again, and it doesn't make any sense. But then at some point you find out that he's reading a book in German, and so it's kind of bleeding into his other persona. It's not even persona because he's the same person, but like it gets to this point where when he's watching himself on the scanner, when he's watching Bob Arctor, he's like talking shit about him and being like, oh, like this guy's a fucking piece of shit junkie, and it's like, dude, that's literally you. But he can't even like make those connections anymore, and it's like you're just watching this like slow degradation of a human life, and it's brutal, but it is really beautiful in the sense that it shows that these people who kind of lose themselves to drugs, it doesn't make them any less people. They're still beautiful human beings. They just are going through it, and you know, everyone deserves a little bit of compassion. But yeah, that's about it. I guess I'll give like a little update. I actually had a couple of videos that were copyright striked, which really surprised me because, you know, I don't make any money off this. I'm just doing this for shits and giggles. But it was three of my most viewed videos. It was my Oathbringer reviews. But it is my fault. I used like art, I guess, that was done by other people. But I was like, you know, fuck it. I'm not making any money off this. Like, who cares? But, you know, fair enough. So I had to take them down. I might re-upload them. I'm not sure. But maybe when I read the fourth Stormlight, I will. My next read is A Case of Conscience by James Blish. I'm currently reading it, and it's already super exceeding my expectations. Short premise, it's about a Jesuit priest who goes to another planet and has to contend with the fact that these aliens have a completely perfect society, no crime, like no concept of like deceit, like everyone just works well together, but they don't have any concept of God or religion. So it's kind of just about his like crisis of faith. But man, it's very good and very well written. So I'm excited to review that one. But yeah, I guess that's it. This was a bit of a clunky review because I guess I'm out of it, you know. But it's okay. Now that I'm back on the horse, I'll get better again. But until next time, take it easy.